Hello friends, welcome to the channel, Bob here, and welcome to a video having a chat, like an update impressions video on Eternal Tombs, which is a new MMO that's currently in development. Still feels quite early in development. I'm not sure if it's like a pre-alpha type thing at the moment. I think that's kind of where it is. But yeah, I've played it now for a fair bit over the last couple of days in between trying to prepare things for my wife's birthday at the weekend. I think I got to level 8 or 9. The footage you're going to see here is me running around just experimenting with combat and killing some mobs and trying to break things and whatnot just to see how it works out. So I'll give you an overall impression first. So if you don't want to listen to a load of waffling, you can listen to it and move on. Overall, I enjoyed my time playing the game. I enjoyed the gameplay loop. So running around, gathering, killing mobs is kind of what we've become used to. New World kind of got me into it heavily. And like, since then, it's something that I've really enjoyed in all the MMOs that I've been playing. And this one is no different. It's a really enjoyable experience running around, killing mobs. I like the fact that the game doesn't leave you gathering from a node for 10, 15 seconds, whatever it may be, which is the case of some games MMOs that I've played recently. So I quite like that. That was a big plus because it's become a bit of a bugbear. Like when I play the Pantheon pre-alpha thing, like standing at watching your character gathering from a node for 12, 15 seconds is not much fun. Irrespective of, from a role-playing point of view, things might speed up again in the future. So all that was great. I found the world immersive in a kind of like an Unreal stroke, whatever the other engine's called, way. You know, I think we've come to expect how these games are going to look now. This looks very similar to Embers Adrift. Visually, it almost also kind of looks quite similar to an older game like Project Gorgon. Obviously, better textures and detail and whatnot, but it's still reminiscent of that. But I just think that's what we've come to expect with these games. They look very similar, but it is immersive, and I did enjoy running around my gameplay loop, exploring, finding out little things, hidden things and whatnot, and fighting mobs, trying to figure out how to fight them in different ways, work out the combat, which I will talk about a bit more in a minute. But yeah, my overall impressions were positive, and I enjoyed what I was doing. The slight concern is that we've been here before a number of times, running around doing what I was doing. It felt quite a lot like Embers Adrift actually, and there are some other elements of the game as well that were an issue in Embers Adrift that are also appear to be potentially could be an issue in this game. So that's the thing. So even though I enjoyed my time running around doing the gameplay loop, I also enjoyed it in Embers Adrift and all the other MMOs that I've played, because it's kind of like the honeymoon period, as we've said before, and when you move beyond that and you get into the more kind of like meat and potatoes, I guess, of the mechanics, that's where issues start to show. There are some issues, I think, right at the start of the game. First of all, I think they patched it actually, which was quite good. But you get some quests at the beginning of the game where you have to kill a certain mob for a certain item, and there just weren't hardly any of these mobs available. And I was running around on my own. It took me quite a while to get what I wanted. So if this was kind of like a release, then, or even like the more open testing that's going on next week, this would be a problem because there was only me running around and I was finding it slightly frustrating. But I think what they've done is they've patched it, which is good, and they've increased the number of mobs of that type that you need to kill to complete the quest, so that was fine. But the other thing that I noticed immediately was I've kind of got this feeling that the game is maybe going for this kind of like low fantasy, low magic thing that seems to be a bit of a trend at the moment, and I must confess I don't understand it. When my character was thrown into the world, he's kind of got a pair of Calvin Kleins on and a stick, and it's just not very appealing. I understand that maybe that's what the developers are going for. Very like a low magic mundane kind of feel, and you start off as a real low B with nothing and you work your way up from there. But it's not very appealing to choose the warlord class or the bone stitcher class, and then you're thrown into the game, and for all intents and purposes the two classes kind of look the same. That was a bit of an issue. I just would like to identify my class a bit more, and I don't think my class needs to look like a peasant hobo, you know, who you would normally find sitting next to a goblin sharing a bottle of cheap wine. I'm not sure where this is coming from at the moment. I don't know why. I mean, this game is still early in development, so maybe that's why. But Embers Adrift did the same thing, and it really did put people off. It put me off, and many people I spoke to, it put them off as well. One of the big things of MMOs is fashion quests, and while I understand that, you know, or we understand that you need to build towards that, I just feel that this kind of like this Hessian sack and very basic look at the start of the game is just not very appealing, and I do feel it will put people off. As I said, maybe it's just because it's early on in the game. It's still early in development, you know, and maybe they've got plans for that, which I'd be interested to hear what they are. But I don't think this kind of mundane low magic feel is a good thing, and I think it does put people off. But there are two issues that I kind of had when I first started the game. It was immediately apparent. You know, I made a Bone Stitcher, then I made a Warlord, and for all intents and purposes, they were the same. They were just the same. And I would like to identify with my class almost immediately when I load into the game and right from the off from level 1. As I said, I don't want stuff spoon-fed, but I do want to feel some identity with my class, and I don't want to run around in boxers naked with a stick, and I don't really want to run around in a Hessian sack. You know, it's not appealing. I think we all understand beginnings and humble beginnings, but I think there is a balance to be had there. I'll talk a little bit about the combat, because that was the most interesting thing for me running around, and you'll see me in this video. You'll see me experimenting with different things. It feels like it's going for like an action combat New World type, mixed with a more tab targeted, slower paced combat, and I don't think they've got it right at the moment. What you'll see here is me running around a mob and hitting it, and it not being able to hit me. And I did that from a testing purposes point of view, but also just because it felt the most efficient. I'm not sure if it's intended. I'm going to assume not. I mean, I was also able to pull more than one mob and just run around them and eventually kill them. As I said, I'm sure that's not intended, but the alternative didn't really feel too appealing. Like if I stood there and just dodged an attack now and again, and then went into combat, I was like, well, I don't feel like I'm being rewarded from a combat feel point of view. So I just went back to running around whacking them because it was the most efficient. And that's what we do as MMO players and RPG players. We'll find the most efficient way. Occasionally the mob would stun me, so I'd get stuck. But I must confess that felt a bit cheap. Because you also get stunned when you're running away at a distance. And I didn't really notice the mobs activating an ability or casting a spell to stun me. It just happened, and maybe that's like a proc that goes off to almost try to stop you from running around them. I would rather the combat was fleshed out a bit more, so that wasn't a requirement. The other issue as well is that it felt as though the mobs were like over-tuned. So if I played the game how the game wanted me to, and that was essentially stand in front of the mob and get hit and dodge a bit, I was taking too much damage from mobs that were like 2 or 3 levels lower than me. So yeah, I think the combat is probably the one thing that still seems though it's got a lot of work. I mean, I like action combat. I love New World. But the thing with New World is that I know it's a different stratosphere from a cost point of view, but the thing with New World is that when you're fighting mobs, it is more of like a dance where you're dodging around them, and they don't telegraph there. Some of their attacks are telegraphed. They need to be, because they're the big attacks do a lot of damage. So, you know, the attackers say, look, please get out of the way, because if you don't, you're probably going to die. But even their basic attacks are also kind of, you can kind of see the animation and you can react to it. Whereas in internal tombs at the moment, the mobs just quickly swing, so it's difficult to move out of the way. I suppose what I'm saying is I didn't really understand what the combat wanted me to do. I'm pretty sure it didn't want me to dance around the mob and avoid all its attacks. But when I was trying to play the game as maybe it was intended, at the moment it still feels a bit raw. It really needs a lot of work. When you did dodge out of the way, it dodged you out of the way quite a lot. So you kind of had to run back in and attack again. But the dodging didn't feel as though it was naturally part of the combat round or the combat dance as it does in New World. Now again, I know I'm comparing it to a game that's, you know, had a lot more money thrown at it, but yeah, for me the combat didn't quite work. I found it interesting, and I think a combination of action combat and maybe a bit more tactical from a tab targeting point of view is good. It could work, but to me it was just worth me just dancing around the mob and not getting hit because it was the most efficient, you know. And so the combat is where I'm interested to see where it goes the most from what I've played of the game so far. It'll be interesting to see how they make the combat satisfying enough so that I don't feel I might as well just dance around. I hope they come up with a good solution that doesn't mean you just keep getting rooted in place because the mob just keeps casting root or stunning you. I think that's a cheap way of avoiding of me dancing around. But so that'll be interesting. The dodge mechanic didn't really feel like it was part of like just fighting a goblin. It feels like it would be more useful if you're fighting a boss and the boss is winding up to do an attack. But yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, to be honest with you, I'm not one of those people that kind of gets bent out of shape if someone finds a way to trivialise killing a basic mob. You know, I don't go on the Discord with a pitchfork and a torch going, "Oh, you've got to stop this. I saw Bob dancing around a mob and not taking any damage." Or, you know, I'm not that sort of person, but I'll do it if the combat doesn't feel satisfying enough. I don't know. I think with an action combat thing, like there wasn't really an activated block. I'm going to suggest some things here that could be stolen from New World to make action combat a bit more interesting. So an activated block as an attack's coming in, so you block it. That's quite good. The other thing as well is that when you attack, you left click to do your basic attack. But at the moment, the basic attack is just the same swing over and over again. So what I would like to see. What I think makes it just feel a bit more interesting is in New World, where if you're clicking a light attack and it goes through a little combination of attacks. They don't do any more damage. It just looks nice from an animation point of view. It'd also be quite good if you could hold the button down and wind up a heavier attack, you know, to whack them with. But yeah, you know, a lot of this stuff is going to be ironed out during the development process. And things will change a lot. I'm assuming based on feedback and hopefully the developers watching videos and stuff. I've got a big negative point, and that is this low magic thing. I was running, as I said, you know, maybe things will change in the future, but I was running around with the character you can see here is called a Chloromancer, and he kind of like uses plants and poison type attacks to inflict damage. But when you're looking at the combat, if you didn't know that, you would probably think he was maybe just a general warrior class. And a lot of the attacks that I've got were attacks with my weapon. And it felt very much like New World, you know, not New World, Embers Adrift, you know, where I'm running around with like a few different classes, and I'm attacking with them, but pretty much all the attacks use my weapon, so they all feel like warriors, but with an attack that says it's for this class, you know. So I would do the poison attack, and it was like a green animation, but I was still swinging my weapon. So it was like, yeah, this is a Chloromancer skill, as using poison, but I'm swinging my weapon to do it. And the three classes that I played pretty much did the same thing. Like this guy the Chloromancer does have a spell or an ability where a plant grows out of the ground, which is fine. It's not very, you know, as I said, you know, maybe the visuals for this will change in the future, and it wasn't very inspiring. It was a little plant comes out, you know, which is fine. But the thing I'm concerned about is the same thing that I'm concerned about with Embers Adrift, is that at the moment it doesn't feel as though, like, I'm playing a Chloromancer, which is feels like it should be a casting class based around plants, but it didn't feel like that. It felt like the abilities were kind of just weapon attacks. And so, again, I didn't, other than the plant attack, I mean, I know that was quite like low level. I only had a few abilities, but yeah, I'm hoping they're not going for this kind of low magic mundane feel. There was a bit in the lore at the beginning where, like a quest NPC says you don't draw magic from within yourself, because otherwise you go all corrupted and stuff. So you need to use items to use magic, I guess. But I don't know about that. I mean, there was like the Bone Stitcher class I played. There was an ability that sounded like a root, but as I said, like these animations and visuals might change, but the visual for it was me throwing a flask a short distance and it hitting them. And it really, really did feel like Embers Adrift, where you're going for this low magic stuff. And I know that Embers Adrift kind of came up with this thing where Ember, and that's the magic system. But if anyone's played Embers Adrift and used the Ember system, even the new Ember system, it really doesn't feel like a magic casting class. You're still essentially using your weapon, or you're using one of your abilities that is essentially a weapon animation to hit a mob. It doesn't really feel, I mean, maybe that's not what they're going for, but again, it really, really was a big issue. I mean, it was probably the biggest issue that people mentioned on my videos of Embers Adrift was the low magic thing. And the Ember system hasn't really dealt with that. They're calling it a magic system, but it's not traditionally. And I know that, you don't have to stick with tradition, and you can try new things, but ultimately people come to a fantasy MMO RPG with certain expectations. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, and I think if you're giving them a game that's low magic to a point where it almost doesn't feel like there's any magic at all, I think that's a problem. And I think it's a bit of an issue here as well. I don't know if it's a trend at the moment. I don't know what developers, I don't know if developers just have an issue with traditional magic classes and so they're trying to move away from that. I'm not sure, but I felt like I was playing I mean, the visuals didn't help, and also the way my character looks doesn't really help. A few of you said that the game, when it, the beginning of the game felt like one of those survival games, like whatever one, as opposed to an MMORPG, and I do agree with that. A bit. Not that I don't like those survival type games, but that's not what I'm looking for here. But I don't know. Yeah, it was hit and miss. Like, I really enjoyed the gameplay loop. I found the world immersive, and I enjoyed running around doing the everyday MMORPG stuff. It seems to have. I wouldn't at the moment. I wouldn't say it's a massively extensive crafting system, but it's got some stuff there, and it looks quite interesting. There's lots of different gatherables and materials that you can apply to crafting to give things different effects and improve their quality on all that kind of stuff. I did craft myself an axe and a couple of other bits and pieces. It's got like the mob drops, that you get. I got like an axe from a goblin, and I got a ring from a goblin as well, and that kind of stuff. So it's got all those kind of things. It's got, like, when you're gathering from a node, I think there's a chance to get like a rarer gatherable. And I killed some when I was killing some of those giant toad type mobs. I was getting some like green, uncommon, I guess, kind of drops as well for crafting and whatnot. So it's kind of got all that. But the two main concerns, I think, are the combat. Like, where is the combat going to go? That probably needs the most work. And the thing I'm worried about the most is this like low magic feel again to the classes. I just think that even old people like me who have been playing MMOs for 25 years or so, I just think we do want a bit more of a bombastic magic class. We want something that's a bit undead themed. We want something that's a bit fireball-y themed. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It's funny because like the last couple of MMOs I've played, asking for more traditional stuff, it almost seems that's become a bit illegal. You know, people get very annoyed about it, as though they kind of go into this, oh, you just want WoW mode type thing, when, you know, like, wizards have been casting fireballs for, I don't know, 50 years, when it, you know, since the 70s, when D&D was yeah, a glint in the designer's eye. So yeah, that's the thing I'm concerned about the most, is I think the low magic theme so far, from what I've seen. Maybe this changes in the future, obviously. Maybe, you know, they'll redesign some of the attacks, and my Chloromancer class will feel more like he's using nature-based magic or plant-based magic in the future, and that'll be fine. But I hope they don't go down that route. But anyway, yeah, just some thoughts really, just throwing it out there. Just to sum up, I really enjoyed the gameplay loop, running around doing stuff that we do in MMORPGs. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it exploring and exploring another new world. I dabbled in a bit of crafting and quite a lot of gathering and stuff, and yeah, it's all good. It's like if you know, I feel a bit kind of I feel a bit mean comparing it to other games, but if you enjoyed doing that in Embers Adrift, you'll enjoy it here as well. What differentiates this game from other games I've played so far is that it's got a bit of dark humour, which I quite liked. There's a thing where there was a stall that was selling kind of like lollipop trolls or candied trolls, and there was there's a graphic of a troll being held by its ankles over a hot bubbling pot, as though it's about to be dipped in it. So maybe that's how they get the candied troll. I quite like that. It was quite interesting, and I like the humour. I've also seen some other funny things around that have made me laugh, like the names of taverns and stuff. It's kind of got a bit of like a fantasy Victoriana stroke Harry Potter about it, which I quite liked. So that was good. The game's also got these Tomb Masters. It's got these events that can just be triggered. If you watched my stream yesterday, you might notice one where this kind of like fiery fox started chasing me around. There was like a rumbling, and there was this I think it was Dragnarok's probably the dragon who was speaking, and then this mob appeared and started chasing me around and tried to kill me and stuff. If you look at the videos on their YouTube channel, you'll know what this Tomb Master event thing is about. But the basics behind it are that it appears as though they're able to summon events like whenever they want. Basically, these events could take the case of I think there was one where this giant spider boss appeared, and if you killed the spider boss, there was like an underground section, maybe the undergroundy section that you could go into that the spider had left. So that seemed quite interesting. As I said, I got like a fiery fox thing chasing me around trying to kill me. So yeah, those are the things that make the game stand out. But the core gameplay loop feels very much MMORPG, running around killing mobs. And I talk about the difficulty of the game as well, because I think that was maybe tuned a bit high. Even when I'd got myself a bit of kit and made myself a bit of weapon, I was fighting mobs 2 or 3 levels lower than me, and they just seemed to be doing too much damage. So there were some fights, like maybe when I was level 8 fighting a level 6 mob, where it almost killed me, and I was like, I did a bit of dodging and stuff, and that kind of helped, but the dodging seemed to break up the flow of the combat, so I didn't do it too often. So it seemed tuned quite high, and for an action combat game, as I said, it did seem quite difficult to tell when a mob was going to hit you. The animation was quite short and abrupt, so it's not even as though you could kind of really dodge out of the way. And the only real way of dodging was to run around the mobs, as you saw that I was doing quite a bit of. But yeah, I mean, I really like the theme and like the humour to the game. And I like the idea of this Tomb Master thing as well. But obviously I was only really, really early on, like level 8. You know, I don't know what's going to happen at level 40 or level 50. Who knows? There are quests that give you XP, and some of them do give you quite a bit of XP. And I thought that was a good thing because again, you know, I did experiment at level 7 or 8, I think it was, with just killing mobs to level. At level 8, I wasn't getting any XP for killing mobs at level 5. So I was essentially having to kill level 6 mobs to get XP, and leveling off of killing mobs, it was all right, but it was, again, I felt a little bit like Embers Adrifty. So when I got to 15 or 25 or 35, like, how many mobs is it going to take me to level? If it keeps scaling, it's going to be quite a lot. And so I wasn't sure. I wasn't convinced. I don't want the game to fall into similar traps that other games have fallen into, where you get to level 25 and if you're leveling off of killing mobs, you need like 1,000 or so. I just, that's what put people off of other games. But maybe the quests supplement that. So there are. I'm not sure how many quests there are. I did see quite a few quest givers around the world as I was running around. So maybe the questing kind of really supplements that, and it helps you to level, which I think will be quite a good thing. So that's it, really. Yeah, that's all I've got to say. The reason I'm doing the video now is I would like to play more, but I'm not sure if I'll get a chance to play in the general, more open test that's going on. So I thought I would do like an impressions of the content creator test that's currently going on. But yeah, I mean, we're here again, aren't we? I feel the game's got bags of potential. I love the look of some of the classes. I think they're trying something different with them. But it's got potential, but it's also got concerns that we've had from other games. So I'm kind of hoping they can find the right balance this time. But anyway, thanks for listening and watching, and I'll speak to you again soon.